Every few years, bodybuilding changes its mind. One decade, we are told to train heavy. Next decade, we are told to train light. One decade, we are told to train every muscle twice per week. Next decade, we are told to train every muscle once per week. 1 year, failure is necessary. Next year, failure is unnecessary. One expert tells you that volume is king. Another one tells you that volume is junk. And if you have been training for more than 20 or 30 years, you have most likely seen these cycles repeat themselves over and over again. But there is an important question that very few people ask. What principles of bodybuilding have never changed? What ideas have survived every era? What principles were accepted by Steve Reeves, Reg Park, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Frank Zane, Serge Nubret, Ronnie Coleman, and almost every successful bodybuilder in history? Because despite many disagreements about training methods, exercise selection, training splits, nutrition strategy, there are some principles that have remained remarkably consistent. And perhaps that should tell us something. Perhaps the principles that have survived over 100 years are the principles that we should be really paying most attention to. In this video, I want to discuss what I believe are the only bodybuilding principles that have never changed. No trends, not fads, not social media advice, but the fundamental principles that have remained true from the birth of bodybuilding until today. And perhaps the most important lesson of all of this is that bodybuilding itself has changed, but human body has not. So stay with me until then, because all these principles actually work together. And by the time we finish, you will understand the complete foundation of bodybuilding, and you will know how to apply it to build more muscle at any age. The first principle that has never changed is progressive overload. The principle existed before bodybuilding even became a sport. Reg Park understood it. Arnold understood it. Haney understood it. Ronnie Coleman understood it. Every successful bodybuilder understood these principles. And this principle is actually very simple. If the muscle is not challenged beyond its current capacity, it has no reason to grow. So simply put, you have to challenge the muscle to grow. If you perform the same work, the same amount of reps, sets, use the same weight over and over again, months and months, years and years, you will never change, because there is simply no reason to change. Muscle growth is an adaptation, and the body adapts only when it is forced to adapt. This is why this progressive overload is absolutely number one principle of bodybuilding that has never changed. This does not mean that you should be adding weight every workout, which most people understand wrongly and actually believe that if they don't increase the weight every single workout, they will never grow. But this reckless behavior, increasing the weight every single workout and forcing it simply by sacrificing other elements which are actually more important when it comes to progressive overload, has led many people stay the same for years, even decades. So you can increase your progressive overload by, for example, adding repetition. You can still keep the same weight, but if you do more reps with the same weight in particular exercise, you are clearly increasing that progressive overload. Also, by improving exercise execution. I have created a bodybuilding blueprint course for everyone in order to help you understand how to exercise correctly in perfect form. So if you are not exercising in perfect form and you are simply pumping weights every single workout and pushing more and more, you are going nowhere. So you have to learn how to train in perfect form. Also, by increasing volume. If you were able to do, for example, 3 sets for biceps curls, 8 to 12 reps in perfect form with some particular weight, but now you can do 4 sets or you can do 5 sets with the same weight, you have increased volume. Volume can also be increased by increasing number of reps in the set. When that happens, then the time has arrived for you to increase the working weight. Also, by improving the range of motion, you also increase progressive overload. And all these factors that I have just mentioned are the ways to improve this progressive overload and progress further. So just adding the weight is the only one factor and has to be applied only in perfect form within the targeted number of reps and sets that I advise. Otherwise, we are not talking about progressive overload. We are talking about some common nonsense that is happening every day, everywhere, in every single gym in the world. So the second principle that has never changed is specificity, meaning you must train the muscle you want to grow. This may sound trivial and you may think, well, but I'm doing this anyway, but not necessarily. So what it means, if you want to train your back, for example, you need to train your back. You should not be training your shoulders or your biceps or your forearms more than your back while you're performing back exercises. If you're training your chest, you should be aware that you must not use your shoulders and triceps more than your chest. And this is happening so often that you wouldn't believe. I see people who are pushing huge weights, doing bench press, all they're growing their shoulders and triceps, the chest almost non-existing. And then they come and say, oh, I don't know why, I don't have good genetics for chest. And you have heard that also from a lot of professional bodybuilders. It's not genetics, it's just this specificity. So if you want to particular muscle to grow, you have to train that muscle. So you need to learn how to specifically hit that muscle. Again, perfect form and perfect exercises for every single muscle are absolutely essential. So this is something that must not be ignored. The muscle that receives the greatest stimulus is the muscle that adapts. So again, for example, if you are doing squats but wrongly and you are hitting mainly your lower back and your glutes, your quads will not grow. What will grow? The muscles that you're hitting the most, your lower back and your glutes. And you will end up having big glutes, strong lower back, but no legs. Now the third principle is recovery. Muscle grows outside the gym. So remember that. So muscle does not grow in the gym. So in the gym, you basically break down that muscle. You're not growing the muscle, you're causing the growth. And when is that growth going to happen? It is going to happen during your recovery time when you are outside the gym. So the question should never be, how much can I train? The question should be, how much can I recover from my workouts? And this is what will decide about your workouts. So you have to pay attention to this recovery. Obviously, recovery includes sleep. You have to sleep at least 8 hours every night, maybe having a nap here and there, maybe every day. Also nutrition, very important. Hormonal environment. I dedicated so many videos on hormones and nutrition. Then you have stress management. If you are overstressed, it's going to be very difficult to grow because your body will be in an environment of chronically elevated cortisol, which is absolutely deadly for muscle growth. Obviously, you have the age. You need to understand that with age, you need more recovery, not less recovery. Then you have genetics and also training experience. So all these factors are actually very important when it comes to recovery, and you need to understand that recovery is very complex and it has to be considered as a principle that has never changed. Every single successful bodybuilder has obviously recovered correctly from his intense workouts, otherwise they would not grow. So remember also that limiting factor is not often only muscular recovery. That's easy. Every muscle will recover within 48 to 72 hours. But there is something more important, and this is called systemic recovery. And this is the recovery of your nervous system. Now, the principle number 4 that has never changed is sufficient training volume. I also devoted so many videos on this subject. Why is this important? First of all, if you look at the history of bodybuilding, you will see that every single professional, successful bodybuilder, all these golden era legends, they all trained with high volume. It's clearly the necessity, the principle, and that has never changed. Even now, people are training high volume. The most successful bodybuilders are actually doing high volume because your body does not grow from a single workout. Your body does not respond to the one killer workout which is going to last maybe 20 minutes, and you do like 5, 6, maybe 10 sets per muscle, and that's all. This is not going to happen. It never happened, and also it will never happen. Even people who promote high-intensity training, their trainings are not low volume. They're also training with high volume. Take, for example, Dorian Yates. Yes, one set to failure, he says, but then there are many other sets before that one set to failure. So maybe there are 4 or 5 sets before that one. So when you put 5 different exercises for back, for example, you're going to end up with 20, 25 sets. You can call them the way you want it, but they are not 5 sets, they're 25 sets. So this training volume is a principle that has never changed. The muscle growth is not triggered by a single repetition. It is an accumulated work that has happened over a period of time. Now, that does not mean that you should train like Arnold, or you should train like Serge Nubret or Lee Haney, but you need to understand that volume is the key. So if Arnold performed 25 sets per muscle, or Nubret went up to 40, that doesn't mean that you have to do the same. You should not copy anyone, but you need to rather do higher number of sets per workout, per muscle group, rather than lower. So if you're doing about 10 sets, for example, per muscle per week, I would advise you to increase that number. Slowly start with 12, over time maybe 15, maybe you will be able to hit 20. And as you know, I recommend for large muscle groups anywhere from 20 to 30 sets. Obviously, this is the target, this is the signpost, and you should get there over the period of time. That doesn't mean that what I said you should implement immediately. Give yourself some time and you will get there eventually. But remember that there must be enough work to stimulate adaptation. And this is not going to happen with 2 or 3 sets per muscle group. Now, the principle number 5 is progressive effort over time. So this principle has never changed. Successful bodybuilders don't train randomly. They have system. They know exactly what they're doing. Those systems may be different, as Arnold's training system was different from Ronnie Coleman or Lee Haney or Serge Nubret's training system. But the systems, they don't change. Now, what people often do, because they're not happy with their progress, they change systems all the time. They change the training system every week, every month. They try something new. They hear something new. They understand some massive discovery on YouTube. Some influencer came up with some new exercise, new techniques, this and that, and they keep changing it all the time. So first of all, you need to learn which training systems are the most effective. I devoted videos on that. I also have different training programs, 3, 4, and 5 days split for beginners, for intermediates, for advanced. And if interested, you can see that on my website. But once you have the program, you have to stick to that program, because you need this repetitive challenge to continue over the period of time. Yes, few things can be changed, but the structure, the selection of exercises, that cannot be changed. And as I said, many change their workouts all the time, basically training randomly. Now, the principle number 6 has absolutely never changed, and this is adequate protein intake. From the very early beginnings of bodybuilding, athletes understood that protein is absolutely essential for muscle growth, and they ate a lot of protein. Start from Reg Park, Arnold, Serge Nubret, Frank Zane, Lee Haney, Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates, every single professional bodybuilder today, successful, either natural or advanced, doesn't matter. Protein is the king, is absolutely essential. Without protein, you will not build muscle. I suggest, as you know, 2 to 3 grams per kg of protein per day. And the reason for that is not only muscles that require protein. So when you eat your protein meal, you eat 60, 70, 80 grams of protein in one meal. Don't ever think that all these 80 grams of protein will go straight into the muscles. They will go everywhere, because every single tissue, every single organ in the body requires amino acids. So this is why it's so essential. It's not only about muscles. Muscles are probably the least important tissue on the body, but you have tissues like blood, you have hormones, you have skin, also you have bones, you have internal organs, vital organs. Imagine heart, lungs, kidneys, liver, spleen. digestive tract. All these organs, all these tissues, they require protein. So when you start listening to some nonsense that you cannot absorb more than 30 grams of protein per meal, and you should be eating 1 gram per kg or even less, absolutely run away from that advice. Forget about it. You need anywhere from 2 to 3 grams of protein per kg of body weight. Muscle tissue, they require amino acids, they require vitamins, minerals. Good food, good protein sources will provide you in abundance. For example, eggs, liver, red meat, chicken, fish, dairy. These foods are unbeatable. And if you eat them in the right amounts every single day, you will be completely covered. So remember this. Every successful bodybuilder ever consumed sufficient amount of protein. The principle number 7 is consistency. When I say consistency, I don't talk weeks or months. I'm talking years. I'm talking decades. And why is that? Simply because all the great bodybuilding champions, all successful bodybuilders, naturals, enhanced, they have all built their body over the period of years, if not decades. Just look at the professional bodybuilding scene. Arnold didn't build his body in 2-3 months. Serge Nubret didn't build his body in a year. Ronnie Coleman built his body over 10 years. He attempted so many times unsuccessfully to win Mr. Olympia, and he kept changing year after year. It took him 10-12 years to win. So you have to understand that all these bodies have been built over time, and this is that factor that many people today are completely ignoring, and this is consistency. You have to be consistent, and you must not miss your workouts. I have never missed a single workout in over 45 years of training. Never. I never missed a week, a month. Never took off from my training. So what is that telling you? That consistency is absolutely the golden key that will open that door of progress. You have to be consistent, period. Now, the principle number 8 is individual differences. You need to obviously address the fact that all of these great names in bodybuilding, Arnold, Oliva, Nubret, Haney, Ronnie Coleman, and others, they didn't do the same. They didn't train the same way. They had different training systems because they are different individuals. So these individual differences pay a part. And what is that suggesting to you? Why is this really important for you? Because you need to understand that you have to find a way that will help you to become the best you can be, not to copy somebody, because you will never be Arnold, you will never be Serge Nubret or Sergio Oliva or Ronnie Coleman. Forget about it right now. You can only be the best you that you can be. So try to find a training system. Maybe it's going to be a little bit different than your best friend, the people who train in the gym, and they are all doing very well. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that these individual differences cannot be ignored. So you have to find literally the system, selection of exercises, the weight, training split, everything that matters and that will work for you. So this is another principle that has never changed. None of these athletes train the same as anybody else. They all train differently. The principle number 9 is mind-muscle connection. You have heard that so many times. All the great names in bodybuilding have been talking about it for decades. Arnold talks about it even now. Focusing on your training, connecting with the movement, feeling the muscle in every part of the repetition, in every repetition of the set. Between the sets, you rest as little as necessary, but focus on your next set. Try to connect, try to do something better, try to immerse yourself in that particular activity that you're doing. This is the principle that actually works for everything you do in life. You have to have that object-mind connection. So whatever is the object that you are doing, that you're relating to at this particular moment, either that be a sculpture or a wooden trunk that you're going to turn into a chair or something, or maybe a muscle that you're training right now, you have to connect this with this particular attempt, with this object which is of your interest at that particular moment. So mind-muscle connection, absolutely essential. Serge Nubret was all about mind-muscle connection. Frank Zane was developing the whole philosophy around training, and that training was simply exactly as a meditation for him, because when you perform in a way that you're so immersed, so connected, that your muscles are not something separate from your mind, things change dramatically. And this principle has also remained forever. Every successful bodybuilder has actually paid attention to that mind-muscle connection and exploited it 100%. Now, the principle number 10 that has never changed again, and it's absolutely critical, is patience. But this is probably the most difficult principle for most people, especially us moderns now, young people, because everything now has to be done now. Everything has to be at hand, as Heidegger would say. Everything must be, you just extend your hand and you have it. You go to the supermarket, it's right there. Your car is right in front of you. You sit in the car, you go somewhere right there, right now. Immediately, everything has to be done. Or you pay money for whatever, and it has to be done now because you have paid your money for that. But bodybuilding is not like that. You can't pay money to anybody to change you in a month or in a year. You have to be patient, because everything that I have said today points towards patience. You choose the right training system, right split. You have to be patient. You have to give your body to adapt to that. Then you start polishing that training system. You're choosing the best exercises. You're trying to unravel the mystery of progressive overload, mind-muscle connection. All these things, they will take time. But if you're doing it right, if you're following advice that I'm giving it to you in this video, you will be on the right track. Now, how long is going to take for you to change? I get this question asked every single day by my viewers on YouTube. Every single day, a dozen of times. How long will it take? Somebody orders a training program. The first question will be, when you send me the training program, how long it will take for me to change? When you send me the nutritional program, how long is going to take for me to change? How long is going to take me to lose 20 pounds, 50 pounds body fat? You see, these questions are clearly pointing out that patience is not a virtue today, and people are not patient. Now, I have to bring you back and explain to you again that things don't happen overnight. It took me 7-8 years to build a body ready to go on the stage. I couldn't do that in a year or 2 or 3. I was still trying, I was experimenting, but I was consistent and I was patient. It's not easy, but you have to be patient, because none of these big names have built their bodies overnight. They were all patient. So at the end, let me just remind you that different methods can change. The fashions can change. People come with all different types of trainings and, trends of training as well. Also, influencers may change. Just look at YouTube, how the trends have changed with different influencers. But one thing that I want you to remember from this whole video is that principles remain the same. They never change. And perhaps this is the most important lesson that bodybuilding can teach us. If you have struggled to build muscle, burn fat, structure your training program, choose the most effective exercises, the right number of reps, the right number of sets, then I believe I can help you greatly. I have been in bodybuilding for over 40 years, and during that time I have coached and helped thousands to change their bodies, build muscle and burn body fat. I've also competed myself 46 times and I won 17 titles. And I have published for you 13 ebooks which are fully loaded with detailed explanation about everything you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. So if you finally want to start building muscle and burning fat, simply click on the link in the comments and you can download my ebooks. Also, for the ones who want to learn how to train in perfect form and stop wasting time in the gym, I have published for you Bodybuilding Blueprint course, which is made of 8 different videos in which I personally perform and explain every single exercise for every major muscle group. So if you're interested in learning how to train in perfect form, click on that link in the comments and you can download my bodybuilding blueprint course. So guys, I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, share the video, and also send me your comments, and I will see you in the next video.